Welcome to part 2 of this video. So now that we've scaled up our tile and we have it aligned with the 3x3 inch grid, what we're going to be doing is making a few easy adjustments to make this image a little bit more polished so that it'll go nicely on your process board. So you have the tile layer here. The first thing that you're going to want to do is play around with a few adjustments. So this here, this little semicircle, is the adjustments tab. What you can do is click on that and sort of look through all these options. I'm sure a lot of you have probably played around with things like this when you're adjusting images on your phone. So for example, hue and saturation, that allows you to adjust how colorful the image is. Exposure allows you to knock out sort of the fuzziness in positive space on your tile. Brightness and contrast is an additional tool that allows you to adjust how bright the image is and how much difference there is between the darkest and lightest portions. So I'll be doing each of these three really quickly to show you what you can do with them. The easiest way to get your image a little bit more clear and concise is using the exposure adjustment. So I would just recommend turning the exposure up a little bit, and when you do that, you'll see that it quickly goes from slightly grainy in the white areas to becoming a lot more clear, and it's sort of knocking out some of that fuzziness. So once you have that exposure layer, look over here on the right hand side where you can see your layers. You have the original layer, and it's actually created a new layer for this exposure adjustment. So you can turn that on and off with the little eye icon, and if you decide you don't like it, you can just right click on it and you can delete that layer and start over or try something different. Another way that you can make your layer a little bit more, or your tile a little bit more clear and polished, is by using the hue and saturation. You can turn the saturation all the way down, and that will make it a lot more black and white rather than having that kind of purple cast on it. So now we've adjusted the exposure, the hue and saturation. One more that I would recommend using is the brightness and contrast adjustment, and I would just recommend playing around with the contrast and seeing if you can get the white and the black parts of your tile to stand out as much as possible. So here you can see it's getting quite a bit closer to what we really want. If you want to, you can shift and click on all three of those adjustment layers, and after you've selected three of them, click on this little folder, and that will allow you to make a folder for your adjustments. Oops, if I can spell. Okay, so you have your original layer and then you have your adjustments. If you click on the eye, you can see we've gone from an image that was kind of purpley and fuzzy to something that's a lot more clear. And something that I would recommend if you want it to be just a little bit more polished is you can shift and click on all of the adjustments and the original layer, right click and go down to where it says merge layers. Go ahead and click on that. So now you've merged your adjustments with the actual base layer itself. And now all you need to do is go to select color range. So the color range tool allows you to select any hue in your composition and to highlight everything on the page that has that exact same color. So I would recommend using the eyedropper to click on a white portion of your tile and click OK. So now it's selecting everything on your tile that's white. So what you're going to do now is select your marquee tool here over on the left, and then hover over the page and right click, and then you're going to click select inverse. So before you had all of the white parts of the composition selected, and now you have all of the black parts of your composition selected. So then what you're going to do is go over to where you have your color wheel and drag all the way down to where it's completely black, and then on your keyboard you're going to click Alt backspace. So now you can see there's a pretty dramatic difference here, and you can, if you want that to be on a separate layer, before you click Alt backspace, you can click right here where it says layers. That makes a new layer so that when you hit Alt backspace and then deselect it, that fill layer that makes it that much more polished is actually on its own layer. So it's not technically messing with what's below. But one thing that you can do is try turning off the layer below it and see if that might actually clean up even a little bit more. See where there's some small areas, small white areas that are just getting knocked out even that much more. And if you have any problem areas after this that are still not totally cleaned up, like for example right here, it's not perfect. What you can do is take this tool here, the polygonal lasso tool, and you're just going to click the little areas that are not perfect, and you're just going to delete them. You just click the backspace or the delete key, and that'll just delete out all those imperfections. There's like one here that I could go in, and you can just kind of play with it and get it as polished as you want. I think at this point it's looking pretty good. The only thing that I might do is just kind of clean up this edge here a little bit. So now I think it's looking pretty good. And if you have any questions about these tools that we've talked about, or if there's anything else that you want to learn for this assignment with Photoshop, feel free to shoot me an email. My email is Dennis, that's DENNIS 38 @purdue.edu. All right, thanks guys.